Welcome back to Echo Ridge. Today, we're going to start designing and planning our spaceport. And boy, is it going to be interesting. If we take a look at the star map, we can go to our home planetoid and then down into status, and you can see that this planetoid gets copper, ice, and slimy meteors. Now, I'm not too worried about ice meteors or slimy meteors, but those copper meteors are going to hit like a truck. I was hoping to be able to try a new style of meteor protection and debris collection on this planetoid, but it looks like it's going to be this sort of standard fare. What I mean by that is I think the best method I've found is putting a bunch of blast shots all on the top of the map and then just allowing sweepies to collect all the debris as it falls. The meteor blasters aren't too much of a problem. They're pretty simple to set up and maintain. Unfortunately, the blast shots can be somewhat of a nuisance, and this is due to the fact that they require refined metal and some petroleum. Lucky for us, we're never running out of oil, and ergo, never running out of petroleum either. And this is despite the fact that our industrial sauna has 6 petroleum generators providing power for the entire colony. We also have a wonderful ragtag team of molten slicksters, which, let's do a quick count here. Oh, we're up to 54, which means it's time for a culling. Look, I know you don't like the cullings any more than I do. Unfortunately, it's become somewhat of a necessity, because when the dupes finish tasks, they sort of just stop working. I'm also getting some building damage on this carbon skimmer, and if it has an automation port, it does. I think we're going to be able to fix this. What's happening is the water is sitting in these insulated pipes for so long, it ends up heating and then breaking the pipe. So the solution is just not letting any of the water in until we actually need the carbon skimmer. So as a matter of fact, I don't even think we'll need the automation port on the carbon skimmer. We can just use a wonderful gas element sensor. Let's put one, say, here, and then we'll do some very clean automation going out, follow it up with a nice bridge. Ooh la la. And then, as many of you suspect, we're just going to put a liquid shutoff valve here, separate everything from here. Let's, of course, get rid of all the existing water in here. We're also going to end up adding a filter gate, which I highly recommend anytime you're using an element sensor of this sort. Should have thought about this beforehand. It would have even made the automation a little cleaner. We'll tie the element sensor into it, and then back onto the main line, and then deconstruct this bridge. And now, when the gas element sensor detects carbon dioxide for at least, let's say, 30 seconds, which means the carbon dioxide has risen to this point, it'll send a green signal all the way over to the liquid shutoff, which will allow the flow of water into the carbon skimmer. It'll start scrubbing all the carbon dioxide. Whammo blammo, we have a good solution. And I just realized our wonderful Slickster Ranch doesn't have a food delivery. That would save us quite a bit of manual labor as well. I'm pretty sure we have a kitchen rail around here somewhere. Looks like it's this third line right here. Not a whole lot of room in here, but we'll get it figured out. There would be a little bit more room if I could remove this block. And then I could put a conveyor loader right here, and this auto sweeper would also have access to it. The issue is that every once in a while we get a normal slickster, which excretes normal oil instead of the petroleum that is excreted by the molten slicksters, which you'd think would be okay, but what would happen is the slicksters would spend their entire time trying not to drown and running around, so they're not going to be consuming as much carbon dioxide, which was one of the benefits of having that many slicksters in here. Why don't we have a smaller gas reservoir yet? Alright, well, looks like the only solution in this case is going to be a wonderful solid filter. We'll put the solid filter, say, right here. We'll have all the eggshells continue back up, but then everything else going over to the meat line. Now I just gotta make some room in here, trying to figure out which direction everything is running in, so I can add some bridges. I had a question the other day in the comments is, why does Echo sometimes deconstruct this line instead of just reusing it? And the reason why is because, as some other people noticed out, I'm trying to get rid of the materials on it. I didn't want whatever, in this case dirt, to end up in our deep freezer, so it's easier for me just to rebuild it. On the solid filter itself, we will select eggshells, tie it in with some power, and now I can also have this conveyor loader also pick up meat, and this conveyor loader pick up meat. So now whether the meat is formed here, it'll get dropped into this conveyor chute, dropped into this ranch where this auto sweeper will sometimes be able to pick it up, depending, because it can't see these tiles right here. Not a big deal. Now, before I got sidetracked with all sorts of other problems, I was telling you that the dupes are still having some issues with the labor. And for that reason, I'm starting to do another massive sweep from our last dig to get rid of all the debris. I've also started mopping up some of the remnants from the bottom of the map, like here's a little bit more here, because the more liquids we can consolidate, the better the performance on the colony will be. And lucky for us, we're almost done with just about all the digging on this colony. I mean, it's only been 1,600 cycles and 80 hours, but, you know, it's a work in progress. So I suppose the first real step in this episode is going to be more of the digging, which means more of the mess making and more of the picking up of all the things. But we need to find out where the full space biome begins and ends. I suspect none of this is going to be space, and all of this environment is going to stay pretty much up here. I also think it might be easier in the form of debris catching and liquids to add a sort of trough here. So I'm just going to add a ton of granite. No specific reason why I'm using granite. It was just the first thing that became selected, and we're going to do it to both sides of the map. In fact, I don't think I'm going to end up using this uranium for anything specific quite yet, so we might as well just bulldoze through it as well. And this will serve two purposes. Now I can just do a clean sweep dig through this massive biome here. All the goodies will drop into here, and then we can let a sweepy or maybe a bucket brigade pick it all up. Furthermore, none of the liquids will end up splashing down, causing a giant mess either. Meanwhile, all of our idle dupes will be picking up all the existing debris, and our pumps here are still doing a great job cleaning this out. I probably need to add another pump right here, which is not too bad once you already have the infrastructure in place. It's just extending more power, more pipes, and that'll be that. In the meantime, we also have another issue, and that is in heat. Some of our large power transformers have started to overheat. They are made out of iron, but their overheat temperature is still 125. And as you can see, the temps here are not that pretty, which you might wonder why, considering, well, the rest of the environment's at 25 or 28 degrees. Well, that's because we have a giant line of insulated tile right here, which sort of keeps the heat in this area, which means we need to extend or create another coolant loop just for some power transformers. I suppose eventually we'll have to be doing it for the entire map, because we are starting to get some hot spots where these transformers have been running for quite some time. But that's a future Echo problem. We're just going to deal with the problem that is currently presenting itself, and this one's a pretty easy fix. I don't want to use aluminum, so I think we're going to use gold, only because we don't have as much aluminum. And I think I'll just extend it all the way down, straight through here. Easy enough. And I'll even send it back up in radiant, doesn't hurt. We have an infinite supply of gold. And then we'll just tie it right back in to this wonderful polluted water line right here. Now the issue is we're obviously going to need more polluted water coolant in this, and this is getting to be a larger loop, which kind of makes me want to do the buffer tank trick. But what we have found is using the buffer tanks doesn't allow for any sort of ebb and flow in your water supply, so things like this happen. If you remember from probably a dozen episodes ago, we were trying to troubleshoot these thermo aqua tuners. And you'll notice we don't have as much damage as we had in the past, but we still have a little bit. Meanwhile, in our alternate experiments, for instance, this one here, that is also using a buffer tank, well, it's never had any damage whatsoever. And already we have a PAV trying desperately to get stuck. I have no idea how they even got down here, and they are sitting in chlorine gas, so this could go poorly very quickly. So I think in this case, since they are in a suit, we're just going to do one of these, like, emergency things, providing a path for PAV. I'm sure it'll go viral on social media. Everybody will be keeping track. Will PAV make it? Make sure you like and subscribe to find out. PAV has now just realized they are endangered, they are trapped. We are currently sitting with a 70% bladder and about half the oxygen remaining in their suit. Don't worry, buddy, we're coming. And it looks like the other dupes have started a merch campaign, Paths for PAV, and make sure you like and subscribe for more updates on PAV. It looks like the duplicants are more concerned with the profits for the Paths for PAV initiative than they are with actually saving Pav. Because, well, there's only one ladder away, and yet they're doing all this nonsense. Does anybody have this errand? Gabby Gabs is coming, and Gabby Gabs has done it. Way to go, and Pav is safe. And because Ghost Rider, Delamuka, and Broken Moon Alchemist were really jealous of the merch, they've decided to trap themselves as well. Let me get our troughs finished and all this dug out, and I'll give you an update here in a minute. Fear not, all the dupes are 100% safe and protected and covered by insurance. In the meantime, we are filling up this cooling loop. As soon as the dupes also finish actually building all the pipes, we're just tying into the wonderful cool slush geyser down here and then connecting it with the bridge, so we shouldn't overfill it, but I'm going to keep an eye on it anyways. We've also finished research on the Meteor Blaster itself, and when you finish it, you also get access to the blast shot maker. So we're going to have to build this. I don't know if it's going to be coming in this episode or the next, because the spaceport's a fairly big adventure. And you might be wondering, considering jetpacks requires data analysis research, which is conducted at the Orbital Data Collection Lab. Well, if you remember, we also finished solid management when we put in our virtual planetarium, and we still have quite a few data banks left over. This is one advantage of these super large planetoids, because we're getting data banks from every single geyser that we ended up taming. And considering there are so many geysers on this planetoid, we're able to do a little bit of the Tier 4 research before we even head to space. I don't know if there's another one we'd want to get quite this early, so I'm not just going to start clicking on them. But if the need arises, we can spend the data banks that we need. We're starting to get a little bit of flow considering the loop is finished, so I'm going to separate it from here. And already you can see the thermal differences and how quickly this loop is able to cool down this area. The large power transformers don't produce a lot of heat at 1000 DTUs, but it's enough to where it can quickly get out of control, especially when you have a bunch of transformers sitting close to each other. But just look how fast this power transformer is going down. What did it start at, 120 or something? Oh no. Why is there water in our line? No, you're not supposed to be backfilling? Oh, mistakes were made. Lucky for us, this is nothing more than just an eyesore, because this polluted water, and well, now water, is only being cooled down to 20 degrees. Obviously not as ideal, because water is not as good of a coolant as polluted water, but look, it's going to be fine. In the interest of transportation speed, I think we're going to add a couple more transit tube accesses. This one here looks good. Little connection there. And I think, oh yeah, we already have a main power spine right here. It'll save us a lot. I don't like connecting too many things to the main power spine. I'd rather use independent conductive wires. Kind of keeps everything clean and simple, but this will be fine. As a note, as much as we're running on this colony, it looks like our potential load is only at 16.26. But that's not quite right, because our current load is often higher than the potential load. Don't think that's how it's supposed to work. Our 2 troughs for all the debris and the liquids have been put in. I've also added a couple of liquid pumps, and these pumps are just going to directly pump everything to the vacuum of space. There's not too much out here that we're really concerned with. Remember, we do have a large surplus of water, so I'm not going to go through the extra effort of trying to save it. But the main purpose is because when all this debris falls, we'll have one convenient area to be able to pick it all up in. I've also added a manual airlock and the transit tube crossing. Not necessarily because things are going to fall down here, because, well, they're not. Everything here is pretty much cleared out. But rather because when we start digging all this out, all the gases are going to slowly be eaten by the vacuum of space. And I don't want all of our environment down here to go with it. So the next step in here is going to be the scaffolding. Looks like I have some of my ladders already in. Some of them are not quite right, but that is okay. What are we using here? Igneous rock, that'll be fine. Eventually, maybe we can find a source of igneous, since we don't have any regular volcanoes here. And I've learned over my course of time to measure twice, cut once, and that rule applies to ONI as well. That way you don't end up building all the scaffolding only to learn that one of them is one tile off. So here's our measure twice, and now I can just get ridiculous and spam across the entire side. Now, this isn't going to work for everything because things like this happen, or things like this where there's plants. So you need to make sure that you get rid of the plants so you can put more trees. Otherwise, Pav will get stuck again. Hashtag paths for Pav. We'll also have to keep an eye on it up here because you can't dig in the unknown. So we'll have to update that as they go. But then we get the honor of just being able to do something like this with a giant dig command. Nothing could go wrong, I promise. Doesn't that look amazing? Now I'm going to try to do a montage here, but we all know that dupes are going to get stuck and I'm going to have to save them because I'm a benevolent overlord. But while you're watching this montage, make sure pepper in the comments with hashtag paths for Pav. And since you're down there, maybe even check out some of the merch we have. No, we don't have any Pav merch. It sold out pretty quickly. Well, good luck, dupes. Here we go. Alright, this montage had to take a break because we're getting peppered by meteors. Yeah, this really sets back progress a little bit. Please don't break through. Oh, that wasn't a good one. And of course, this is a copper meteor shower. Oh, here comes another one. Stand by. Oh, big smashes. I also wanted to give you a mid-dig update on the fact that we're moving all the shovels and shovel eggs that we find into this little vol-safe cage, unless, of course, a meteor comes plunging through it. In order to make a vol-safe cage so they can't just burrow their way through it, you need to have obsidian tiles. Otherwise, the cute little puppies will just burrow through, and please don't continue hitting there. Oh, this is 320 degrees. This is going to turn into a nightmare before I'm even done and ready to put up our steel wall. Oh, of course it's going to hit the same spot. Here we go, right onto the door. Oh, yes. That was a big one. This is 400 degrees. Good stuff. Here comes another one. Oh, there it is. Oh, right in the same spot. Oh, just take out the entire infrastructure. That was the longest meteor shower ever. We've got some minor damage, plenty of carbon dioxide, and just a little bit of concentration of heat. No big deal. We're gonna fix all this. I also added another couple layers of scaffolding that the dupes are gonna spend the next 10 cycles repairing because we need to A, dig out all this, but B, find out how high this goes. Hopefully we can go a little bit longer before we hit another meteor shower and see if we can't get some more progress done. Good luck, have fun. Here we go. We were so close to being finished, and another meteor storm is underway. Oh, the destruction. Make it stop. And of course, it's got to be one of the beefy meteor showers. It couldn't be like the nice and friendly slime meteor shower. I mean, look at all my scaffolding. Oh, and of course, it's going to go in the exact same path. And what's worse is because we've dug out so much, almost every single meteor is going to hit down. Now, we have ways to combat this. It's just, I like doing one thing at a time. And this happens to be the one thing we're doing right now. Why are you just standing there, Pav? Why is it always you, Pav? Hashtag patience for Pav. Hashtag paths for Pav. Hashtag penalties for Pav. This one's not going to be too bad because it's going to hit some existing regolith that's now turning all this water into steam. That's great. Oh, that looks like it hurt, John. I think Clay should incorporate meteor damage onto dupes. I'm not saying I'm a proponent for meteors hitting dupes. I'm just saying it'd give the game a little bit more, pizzazz. And surprise... Oh, John, twice in a row. I was going to say, surprisingly, this granite tile's actually held out pretty well. And we've got another errant vole. Time to move you to the kennel. I think the worst of it is over because I haven't seen a meteor in about a third of a cycle, but look at the damage it did to all of our scaffolding. So while the dupes finish up this, instead of going into another montage, we're going to talk about how we're going to protect from that. We also have another issue I'm going to have to contend with, and that's the fact that this entire biome here had a lot of ice. Ice that's now melting down here, in my colony, making little messes everywhere, even dirtying up our wonderful Paku farm, trying to infect all of our tanks. Like, it's just getting ridiculous. So what we're going to do after we get done cleaning this out with a priority of 9 is we're going to protect this little area right here from the meteors using bunker tiles. Fear not, we have 234 tons worth of steel. Of course, I feel like I've been saying that for quite some time. But let's go ahead and put some bunker tiles, say right here. And then we're going to put a pneumatic door in. This should work fine there. And then follow it up with one automatic dispenser. Except I need to put the dispenser, say, here. So this is not going to work. What I can do is something like this. And then put the door here. With the idea being the dupe should be able to stand here and put the ice through the pneumatic door into the automatic dispenser. And the ice will land here, where dupes can't get it as long as we set the permissions on the pneumatic door correctly. So we'll also do some of this. Turn all this into a 9. Now, even though we didn't quite finish, that took a surprising amount of time, and I've been running on 9x speed. In fact, it's cycle 1652. Let's see if Future Echo can manage to put the amount of cycles that we've spent on the screen right now. Thanks, Echo. During our wonderful dig montage, we managed to find a Catalina. This Catalina obviously has the prerequisites of farming or ranching, but also enjoys to do a little doctoring and operating on the side. They're also skilled in plumbing, they have an iron gut, and their only negative is biohazardous, which, I mean, who cares? Welcome to the farm, duplicate number 31, M. Seal. Now, the reason why we want to put the ice in here is because it's sitting in a vacuum on neutronium. Where do you think you're going? So because it's on neutronium and in a vacuum, the ice won't melt, which means it'll be available for us in the future. And not just regular ice, but sort of anything that's liquefiable will be able to stay up here. Now, I have no idea why we have solid chlorine, but we're going to put it there anyways. I'm going to put it on a priority of 9 temporarily, and then make sure no dupes can go in here. And that way the dupes spend, well, a little bit of time going to get all the ice from around the map. After a quick resetting of the permissions because I clicked the wrong button, we now have all the ice being deposited. And because we have it shielded from meteors, it's sort of a permanent ice chest. It looks like all said and done, we ended up with 16.5 tons worth of ice. Not too bad. I was kind of expecting a little bit more, but we'll be able to use this for ice temperature shift plates and things like that in the future. With all the digging over here almost done, it's time to figure out where the spaceport floor is going to be. In order to do that, we're going to need to build a little stairway to heaven. And we're doing this to try to find out where the ceiling is. Now, I just popped, so we don't have to build any more. Another way of doing this, if you're only seeing black, is from over here, you can see how it says unknown? Well, it'll stop saying unknown. Unknown means it's a part of the map. When it says nothing, it means it's no longer part of the map and you can't build there. So we will cancel these. And now we can find out where our 40 tile mark is. The reason why 40 tiles is important is because that's the height of a hydrogen rocket. And if you ever want to get into hydrogen rockets, well, you're going to need enough space. Now, there's other ways to combat this, such as if you have the floor on this level, well, nothing's to say you can't have a little area down here that the rockets sit in. But at a minimum, you want to have enough space to put all your goodies. So I think I'm going to say this level right here, it's 46 to this tile here, and it has enough room to where there's a separation of vacuum between the main part of our colony and what's going to be our spaceport. The vacuum is important because, at least temporarily, the meteors are going to be hitting the bunker tiles. And when they do, those bunker tiles are going to heat up really hot. And we don't want any of those hot thermals to be transferring into the main part of our colony. Conveniently enough, it's the same level as the top of our ice chest. So now we're just going to take some bunker tiles and go all the way across. We're even going to replace these and then continue on. Oh, isn't this nice? And it looks like it's only going to cost us 20-something tons of steel. It also means we can slowly start deconstructing all of these ladders here because they will not be needed. Now, this is so much of a pain if you do it this way. The better way to do it is actually to build more ladders. If if you build them halfway, yeah, the duplicates are going to spend some time building these, but once they do, they can deconstruct these on a sort of automated basis, and then we do the same thing down here, and they'll be able to do the same. Except when everything's all said and done, when you issue the deconstruct command on these ladders, well, they'll be able to do it from standing right here. Yes, the best way to remove ladders is to, well, build more ladders. We're also going to get rid of this fire pole and this ladder here because we need to replace it with one of our mechanized airlocks that will eventually power. We're going to make it out of steel as well. And because it is possible for these tiles to get above 400 degrees, we're going to finish off the power line to the mechanized airlock with steel instead of lead. Why is it always you, Pav? Was it the campaign? Are you seeking more attention? What's going on here, buddy? With our teardown scaffolding in place, now all we have to do, one level at a time, is just deconstruct all these ladders. And I'll even do it at a higher priority because it looks really cool when all the dupes come up and do it. There we go. And once they're done with this level, I can just go down to the next one and deconstruct it. And that way you don't have to play the whole deconstruct these two, wait for a duplicate to come, deconstruct these two. I know you know the game I'm talking about. I'd be remiss if I didn't say that there's also a mod out there called Chain Deconstruct. I don't personally use it, I know people that do, but whatever floats your boat. And just like that, the first stages of our spaceport are complete. You'll also notice I put a little hat here by the entrance, and that's because I don't want meteors to be able to, A, impact this little area here, for instance if Regolith came and stopped up our vent here, or when this door opens because some dupe is going through it and a meteor comes passing right by. Yes, it's happened. Now right now this works. The meteors are not going to be able to destroy the bunker tiles. It's kind of the whole point of the bunker tile. It can withstand extreme pressures and impacts. In coming episodes, we're going to be doing a little bit more to protect our colony, to include providing cooling loops and meteor blasters and things like that. Because right now, yeah, the meteors will hit, some of them will explode and all the debris will come out, but some of them will start forming little piles of regolith, which means dupes can get stuck, can't get to rockets, and that sort of thing. And normally, in this part of the episode when I'm doing this project, I'd also build another level. It wouldn't be bunker tiles, but rather normal tiles or insulated tiles. And I'd put it probably right here. And we'll be doing that in the future. It'll still provide our vacuum buffer from the space biome and the hot bunker tiles and the rest of our colony, and will still allow us to work in all of this area fully protected from the dangers of space. But for now, we already have a bottom ceiling to our spaceport because of the two troughs that we built. And I'm going to be spending some time building a bucket brigade, or maybe putting a putting a bucket brigade somewhere. For those of you wondering, all said and done, we ended up with 21 little puppies. Even a couple of delectables. We'll be having fun with these little guys in the future as well, as we start to create massive amounts of barbecue. Also in the background, I've managed to dig out just about every other area to include all the chunkiness that was here that was collecting some liquids. We finished pumping those out, completely cleaned out this area, and I think the only places that we have left to dig is a couple little areas down here, and this wonderful carbon dioxide geode that I've been holding off on for quite some time. Because I think the final episode of this series, we're going to let this puppy loose. But we have plenty of time until that happens. I hope you've enjoyed this episode and our sort of part 1 of our spaceport build, and are looking forward to the next part. So until next time, much love, happy gaming, and I'll talk to you soon.